It'll get handled when it gets handled.
Patrick Mahomes is basically God playing quarterback.
Chiefs Kingdom
Live.
So on at it. What's hot? Know your role and shut your mouth, you jabroni.
Yeah, when it's grim, be the Grim Reaper and go get it.
It's Mahomes' house. And it is good. Woo! Arrowhead man. The Lombardi Trophy has a red and gold reflection. You gotta fight for your right to party.
Let's go.
Howdy, Chiefs Kingdom. It's Wednesday. It's 8 o'clock. It's Chiefs Kingdom Live. Thank you so much for joining us. Real quick, if you'd be so kind, make sure to click or tap that like and click or tap that subscribe. Really helps the show out. Tell a friend, tell a family member, tell some Chiefs fans, tell the person next to you at the gas pump. We'd sure appreciate you spreading the word and helping the show out. We've got a jam-packed show. No shortage of news now with the first preseason game in the books. We got injury updates. We got player highlights. We've got this week's poll. Anything else you all want to talk about? Make sure to throw a comment or a question up there in the chat. The chat's looking full already. It's good to see everybody. Looks like we got Big Doug and Maria and John C.
Hello, everybody. Thank you.
Our man John V. looking like he's back in the chat. Good to see you.
What's up, John?
There's Laney. From the way the chat reacted when John V jumped in, I think he's like more popular than any one of us three somehow. So maybe it's pity. I don't know. But good to see you, John V. Looks like we got Chiefs Girl in the house. Good to see you. Really appreciate everybody coming in here. Before we kind of get into the show and get going here, fellas, how are we doing this evening? Nick?
Yeah, I'm good, man. I'm in the middle of remodeling. I was going to do a little bit here, but I forgot to move my camera over. I was going to move it like this because it looks like CGI and say I was in the Bills Super Bowl trophy room. But yeah, dude, I'm good. You know, I gotta say, Bo, that intro that you put together, dude, that shit makes me smile every single time. Like when we're getting ready for the show, man. I love that. So great work there, man. You just keep adding little bits and pieces to it. Makes it great. How are you, buddy?
Bo?
Doing good. Had the in-laws in town. They were kind enough to bring me a gift from New Mexico, new Chiefs poncho.
Oh,
look at that. Look for that at the next home game. For regular season games, I won't be at this upcoming game this week, but I'm trying to make it out there. But no, I'm doing good. How about you guys? Scott?
I'm good. I'm doing real good. Life is good. We had a football game this weekend. Got to watch some Chiefs. So, I'm doing real well. There's our man, Chief Bloodygrass, checking in. Good to see you.
Helping our viewer count. Appreciate you, man.
Hey, former professional football player. So he knows what he's talking about. Football historian too, according to his bio on X. If you're not following Chief Bloodygrass over there on X, give him a follow and check his stuff out. It's good stuff. Let's get into just kind of give an update on some injuries. We got some players back, and now we got some players going out, kind of swapping the healthy for the injured here. Nick Bolton and Justin Reed back at practice this week.
Let's go.
Those two guys got injured early in training camp. It's good to see them back. How excited are you to see Justin Reed and Nick Bolton coming back, Nick?
Yeah, well, as one of the two people on this show that said that we should re-sign Nick Bolton over Creed Humphrey. I'm really excited to have him back. You know, I think he's a great player. Justin Reed and him both add a lot to the defense. So sorry, but I just had to do it, man. So I'm stoked, man. It's great news.
Come on.
Yeah. Yeah. Bo, Justin Reed, Nick Bolton. All good, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's great news, man. That's, again, I mean, we kind of saw it a little bit. I mean, it's only first preseason game of the year, but that defense didn't look quite right without those two guys. So huge addition to get back. And like we pointed out, it was an early injury. And that's the benefit of getting kind of injured early is right. You're ready to go. It's week one. So yeah, really good to see those guys back.
Yeah, I was maybe a little worried that was a sign maybe of things to come, that we were going to have an injury-plagued training camp. But those guys, that's kind of like the silver lining, right? Is getting injured early gives you plenty of time to get back. So Nick Bolton and Justin Reed cleared to return. They're practicing. Didn't play in the game Saturday. Not sure if they come back and play in a preseason game. They might be extra cautious with those guys. So good to see that.
Yeah, I can see that.
Some guys that are injured. Kadarius Toney still struggling with injuries. I don't know. Depending on what you read and where you look on the internet, Kadarius Toney is safe or he's in danger of not making it. Andy Reid kind of talked about him. I'm pretty sure it was Andy Reid. Kadarius Toney struggling with injuries still. I mean, guys, what
else is new with that guy, right?
Yeah, right. What do you think about Kadarius Toney being injured here, Bo?
Dude, he's really changing my opinion about injury-prone players having to be like a thing. Like that's actually, if you're that guy, you can count on being injured. We've seen it throughout other teams, and I've just wanted to ignore it with KT. You can see his explosiveness and how good of an athlete he is, and when he wants to do it, he's on it. But he's always injured, man, and like it's just like starting to be a bummer. And you're just kind of like, well, if you're always going to be injured, kind of look onto the next guy a little bit. I think he's on the fence. I don't know if he's got a guaranteed spot anymore.
Yeah, he wouldn't be the first supremely talented guy to have his career kind of derailed by injury. But Nick, I mean, what do you think? You see Kadarius Toney when the games start counting on this team?
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's questionable. It's questionable that he makes the team, right? With some of the other people that we have, vying for the spot. So, he's got some things that he's done off the field that have hurt his chances, and then with his injury prone, nature there. I agree with you, Bo. It is weird, and you just wonder what's the difference between a guy like Travis Kelce, who basically is always available, always there, and a guy that's consistently hurt, and just what are the factors there that is it luck, is there some sort of, is it like a skill, like to not get injured, right? I mean, you look at, it seemed like Marcus Allen was one of those dudes. He just never took like those big hits. He was always able to kind of like maneuver out of them and stuff. But Kadarius Toney seems like he kind of gets hurt, sometimes even non-contact stuff, right? So I look, we know that he can show up when we need him, right? He showed up in the Super Bowl against the Eagles for a couple of pretty big plays, but I don't know. The Chiefs have got to be about ready to move on, if not fully ready to move on from that experiment, I think.
Yeah, I think Bloody Grass has got it right. Ross in, Toney out.
Yeah, we'll talk about Justin Ross a little bit later when we talk about the preseason game, kind of who was flashing and who shined in the loss. Obviously a meaningless loss to the Jacksonville Jaguars being preseason. But, yeah, KT is just, it seems like the negatives are piling up for the guy. And
maybe Temu version.
Yeah. Look, I don't know what to expect out of the guy. He kind of had his chance last year and didn't really take advantage of it. Now, if he's struggling with injuries and they've got some other guys there, maybe they jump him in line, right? Take his spot, skip ahead, but we'll see what goes on there. Another injury that popped up here in this last week, Juwan Taylor, the right tackle, got a shoulder issue. Not necessarily all that concerning according to the early reports. Again, Chiefs are usually very vague and secretive about injuries and the seriousness of injuries players for whatever reason, right or wrong. Don't want to see injuries start piling up along that offensive line. The Chiefs, although I will say they lost Joe Thuney, who's an all-pro guard last year and still won the Super Bowl. So Juwan Taylor, a little guy to keep an eye on there. The elephant in the room, the big injury, unfortunately, the shiny new toy the Chiefs got in the offseason.
Already scratched Brown, it. We banged it up already, guys.
First play of the preseason, goes down on what appeared to be a fairly routine tackle.
Super routine.
I was watching the game, and they kind of cut away from him pretty quick after he was tackled, but I caught a glimpse of the way he kind of rolled over and put his head down, and I was like, oh, no. And some people I was watching the game with were like, what? And I was like, I think he just got hurt. And they're like, what? No, I didn't see that. He's running to the sideline. I said, I don't know. He did not look good. Like, it was just a glimpse of him, and then a couple minutes later, they were showing him on the sideline. The doctors were looking at him, the training staff, and I was like, my heart kind of sunk a little bit. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, man.
Sternoclavicular dislocation. Interestingly enough, the same injury that Tyreek Hill suffered in a game at Jacksonville a few years ago. Can be a serious injury depending on what other parts. I mean, there's an issue where it could get and poke into your lung, right? He was taken to the hospital for evaluation. Luckily, did not need surgery to repair the injury, but returned to KC. But it's an injury that carries a 4 to 6 week recovery time, return time in most cases. That would put him, if it's 4 weeks, I mean, you got 2 weeks of the preseason, and then the game on September 13th, you're looking at, that's right about 4 weeks right there, right? So a chance he returns early. How big of an injury is that, Nick? And how badly do you think the Chiefs need to get Hollywood Brown back for those first 2 games right out the chute at home against the Ravens and the Bengals?
It's tough.
Are big games. Yeah. How big of a hit is that, and how badly do they need to get him back, do you think?
So, yeah, I mean, obviously it's a big hit, right? That he was, him and Rice were supposed to be our, number 1, number 2, right? And so now, do you guys think it's safe at this point to say the NFL is not going to suspend Rice before the start of the season?
I don't know. There's some reports out there.
Something like that.
There's some reports out there that may be the case. He has a court date in December, which would be the end of the season. I don't know. Sometimes the league doesn't always wait for the legal process to carry out, or doesn't even always agree sometimes with the legal process. The legal process will, you'll see a guy get charged and be in some trouble, and the charges are dropped, or he pleads out to like a small crime, and the NFL still suspends him. So it's looking like maybe a better than 50% chance that he misses the suspension. Definitely is looking like he's not going to be suspended early. If that's the case, you'd think they would have announced it if he was going to be like missing the first 4 or 6 games or something.
Yeah. So look, obviously if we're going to be out one top wide receiver, it's better if we're not out the other guy. Right. So, but yeah, it's going to hurt. The good news is we saw that the Chiefs have the ability to win with subpar wide receivers, right? So, it's not like a death knell on those first couple of games, but it's definitely just not what you want to see, man. You don't want to see anybody get hurt on any team, right? But it sucks. Like we were checking in to a hotel. It was like me and my wife's anniversary this past weekend, and so like. It was like we were checking in, and I was trying to like get the game to pull up because everybody said it was going to be streaming on the app. I couldn't figure it out, and by the time we got up to the room, like it was 2 or 3 plays in, and it was like right when we were kicking the field goal there, and I was like, checking my phone, and everybody's talking about somebody's hurt. And I was like, how somebody's already hurt, man? It's just right out of nowhere, right out of the gates. It's just it really sucks, man. We've really been seeing a lot out of this wide receiver group and the deep passes in training camp, and you just feel like they want to open up the offense, and it's not like a super major setback, but just those first couple of games probably are going to be pretty important for seeding based on with Joe Burrow being back, where the Ravens were the number 1 seed last year, and so you don't want to drop a game to those guys early in the season because that could be your tiebreaker later in the season. So
definitely not at home. Definitely not at home either. Right. That makes them even more like must wins if they're ever, if you want to call us a game must win that early in the season. Bo, how worried are you about Hollywood Brown missing maybe the first few games of the season? And do you think he makes it back? I'm like, Please,
Yeah,
come
man.
back.
It's one of those things you're just like, you got to hope for all the best outcomes, right? So far it's been that way. He hasn't had surgery, was able to go back to KC. From what I've heard, he's already kind of starting to do some light rehab on it. I mean, and professionals, dude, when they get hurt, their rehabs are more intense than like your and I's regular workouts. You know what I mean? So will he get back? Yeah. Will he get back for week 1? I doubt it, man. I mean, it's an injury you don't want to rush because, I mean, I feel like it could easily happen again with the nature of tackles and going down to the ground as a receiver. Yeah, dude, it's just a crushing blow to the hype train, really, man. Everybody was so stoked on it, and I think, when you get like a really nice watch, like a high-end watch or something, they say it's really not yours until you ding it or you get a good scratch on it, right? Like our brand new toy, we just dinged it, man. So we gotta take a little bit more care with it. Maybe not passes up the middle, getting tackled right away with that guy, but I mean, it's the game. It's part of the game. I think Nick kind of hit it early. I don't know if it's skill or luck to not get hurt, but the fact that more people don't is kind of mind-boggling with how hard some of these hits are today, and the technology and the pads and stuff that allow guys to hit even harder is nuts. But there's a bright side to this. It's a good opportunity for all these other wide receivers to step up to the plate. And we kind of saw it in the game. We're going to talk about Justin Ross, Remigio, all these other guys that we have on our roster that are we need them stepped up to the plate now, man. And hey, it's your opportunity. So I hope they're ready this week.
Yeah, we've heard that with this team before. Next man up, right?
Right.
You're one player, one injury away from being out there and getting your opportunity. It's a big blow to the Chiefs. They've been airing it out. We've talked about that in previous shows. An emphasis on the long ball with the speed at wide receiver with Worthy and Brown and Rice. You like to have your full arsenal, especially, we've talked about when the schedule came out, we discussed how, you get those first 2 games at home. You'd like to think you're going to be relatively healthy the first week or 2 of the season, right? As opposed to later in the year, as guys are getting banged up, and the season sometimes can be like a war of attrition, right? As the weeks and the months pile up and you get into December and January playoff football. To be missing a guy possibly for those first 2 games definitely stings. But I will say this team's shown ability to win games in the past without Tyreek Hill. They've shown an ability to win games in the past when Travis Kelce maybe misses a game or so here and there.
Didn't have Hollywood last year, right? So
didn't have Hollywood last year. So is it a death knell? And is it like DEFCON 4 or whatever, like 4-alarm fire? No. The Chiefs can definitely still come out and win those games at home. Rashee Rice showed that he really caught fire the last half of last season and into the playoffs, and showed that he can be a number 1 wide receiver. They've got other guys. Maybe this forces their hand to play Worthy a little bit earlier, who's been showing some good signs in training camp. So, yeah, I'm not too worried about the Brown injury, but it definitely hurts. It's not going to help. I feel kind of like Captain Obvious saying that, right? But
well, it is obvious, but yeah, it's we were looking forward to him playing, man. It's just like I said, a blow to that hype train, dude. I was so excited about watching him play, especially alongside with the rookie Xavier Worthy that you brought up and Rashee Rice. Man, that was just going to be like, woo, sounded killer.
Right? Maybe you'd have a little bit of a revenge factor too with Hollywood Brown against the Ravens, his old team, week 1. Maybe there's some extra motivation for that guy to play.
That's right.
Maybe that's extra motivation though for him to come back early, right? And maybe you don't want to rush him back like Bo said and risk re-injury and missing even more time. But I got to think there's a little bit extra will for him to come back and play in that game. And like we said, the injury happened, it's been almost a week ago at this point, 4 or 5 days now. If it's 4 to 6 weeks, with the first regular season game of the year being on Thursday, that's September 12th? Is that the right date? September 13th? That's 30 days away. You've got a little over 4 weeks right now. Definitely, it's possible if he can get back on the earlier part of that time frame. He could be back for that week 1 game at home to kick off the season at Arrowhead against the
It's
Ravens.
possible.
Not going to
Let's
call
go,
it an
boy.
AFC Championship rematch because there's no Lamar Hunt trophy on the line. But getting to play those guys again, kind of
Don't worry,
not
the rest
back
of
to
the
back
media
for
will
us.
call it that.
Yeah, playing them back to back for them because they haven't played anybody since we beat them last year. We've played another game since then, but yeah, fingers crossed, prayers up for Hollywood Brown, and hopefully he's not hurting too bad and he can get back. Let's just talk about this preseason game. The Chiefs lose to the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, the loss is not important with it being preseason. I felt like that was like one of the most typical preseason games there was. Right, there was some good and some bad and some unknown. Let's just kind of start maybe with the bad. Get that out of the way. The defense looked like they were struggling to stop the. Well, we'll talk about that too, but the Chiefs' defense looked like they were struggling to stop the Jaguars in that first quarter. Now, again, we talked about this here at the open of the show. Justin Reed out, Nick Bolton out, Chris Jones was not playing. So you don't have the core, the backbone of the defense in there, but the Jaguars were moving the ball and making plays. Bo, the defense, I mean, any level of concern for you that they might not be ready or that we could see maybe a little bit of a drop-off coming up?
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. Well, if they're not ready, I don't think that matters. It's the first preseason. You already alluded to all the players that weren't playing. The first got 3-4 snaps, maybe a drive if total, right? Like before they're off the field. So that's why I put down on the Chiron. Chiefs second and third string took on the Jags first and second string, right? It was like I said, such a typical preseason game where it's just like ho hum. It was more of like let's see what the other guy. There's 96 guys on the team I think right now, and they're trying to whittle it down to 53 in 2 weeks. So I think it's more or less let's see what these other guys got. As far as the defense goes, though, man, and the Jags moving the ball, I kind of jumping the shark a little bit, going, it's the special teams. I don't know if the Jags move the ball that well if they're starting on their end of the field instead of ours. Yeah, so it's a little bit easier to move the ball in that case. But first game, first preseason game. Dude, I love the hype around this week, right? I think the Commanders and the Bears are slated to play in the NFC Championship. The Chiefs are done, right? Like just the overreaction to everything is so funny. So I think this is just one of those things, right? Like you can't take too much from this game until we see, at least 3 or 4 good drives out of them. So.
Yeah, they pulled the starters real quick. Andy Reid had talked about the starting offense and the starting units might play the first quarter of this game. And then as soon as Hollywood Brown got hurt, that drive ended in the starters wrap. So
he's like, get him out.
That's done.
Get him out.
Pulled him a little bit early. Nick, no real reason for concern with what you saw about the Jaguars kind of taking it to the Chiefs there early in that game on offenses there.
Yeah, I don't think so. It wasn't all bad. They had a turnover on downs, right? The Chiefs defense did, where they got a fourth down stop,
fourth down sack, right?
Yeah, fourth down sack. How about Trevor Lawrence taking a sack in preseason on fourth down? Just throw the ball away, dude.
Sign of things to come for them.
Yeah. So, but there's no reason to panic. But you're amped. You just won back-to-back Super Bowls. I think Chiefs fans just want to see their team come out and look like they're going to dominate. And that wasn't exactly the look that we got. And so I think that some of the reaction is expected, if not warranted. Right. But yeah, look, it's preseason. They're knocking the rust off. Like you guys said, there's some people that aren't playing, that are hurt. And, it's just that they're just trying to make sure the communication's good and, just get a couple of reps in with another team. I don't think there's any real reason to be concerned at this point, right?
Yeah.
Definitely good not to overreact one way or the other with the preseason games, especially, like I said, when the starters get yanked as quickly as they did in that game against the Jaguars. You get Chris Jones in there and you get Nick Bolton and you get Justin Reed back out there on the field. And I feel like that defense looks a lot different.
It's a completely different defense.
Well, Nick Bolton's the one that's calling the plays, right? So
yeah, that's So they I mean, they were missing key guy. I mean, Justin Reed, he's the veteran back there in the secondary, hard hitting safety. So yeah, not too concerned. I mean, you always want your team to come out and dominate or look good, right? And not give up drives and not give up points, but it's just preseason. Maybe the other part that didn't look too good, Bo, you brought up the special teams. They give up the big return on the kickoff, which we'll talk about here in a second. But, I mean, is that kind of another just like a fluky thing, preseason, teams trying to figure that out, Nick?
Yeah, look, it's we were talking about how that kickoff rule is kind of boring, and then, you know, the Jags busted almost a return for a touch.
Yeah.
I think it's just they're just getting used to the new rules, and if they're going to allow a 70-yard kick return on a kickoff, like, you know, preseason's the right time to do it, I guess. But yeah, it's definitely, you know, there was just a couple of fluky things on special teams that you don't want to see. But it, like I said, it's good to get it out of the way now, right? Get all the mistakes out of the way now. Get all your communication lined up. Get it figured out. But yeah, it was a kind of an ugly outing for the special teams, except for Butker, right? So,
yeah, I saw the fire Tobe posts were out on social media, and people were freaking out and overreacting about that. We'll talk about the kickoff in general a little bit later when we do this week's CKL poll. But yeah, it's concerning. Special teams. Look, it's one of those things where it's new to everybody, and maybe some hiccups are to be expected. If it continues into the next 2 or 3 preseason games, I might my ears might get perked up a little bit more about it. But
eyebrow might raise there.
Right, it's like the defense. I'm really not concerned with it too much there. I'd like to think of a veteran coach like Tobe and some of these guys will get things figured out. Kind of like spring training in baseball too. Sometimes you see these guys, these pitchers and these hitters, and their numbers don't look good in spring training, and they're trying things, right? And they're working on things, and they're really not focused on putting up numbers or getting hits or getting strikeouts, right? They're kind of refining some things that they've worked on in the off season. And then once the regular season gets there, it's a different story, night and day. How many years did the Royals win the Cactus League and then lose 100 games, right? So definitely not going to overreact or panic about the defense of the special teams. The offense looks pretty good, especially that opening drive. They settled for a field goal, but they moved the ball, right? And the play that Mahomes made to Hollywood Brown that he got injured on was a heck of a play by Mahomes to keep the play alive, and Brown to make a nice contested catch there. So the offense, let's just kind of talk about some guys maybe that stood out. One guy that stood out and was getting a lot of hype was Carson Steele, the undrafted free agent running back or fullback, whatever you want to call him. Dude was out there. Pacheco
putting in work.
Pacheco had been proud there. There were some angry runs by Carson Steele, as they like to call him. Bo, Carson Steele, what do you see out of that guy? And you think the Chiefs maybe are onto something with that dude?
Dude, I thought it was hilarious. Not 5 minutes before he banged one in, you're posting on X like, man, I'd really like to see Carson Steele right there. And then, yep, bam, gets one. It was so Nostradamus of you, man. It was so funny. No, I'm excited to see more of him, man. I mean, again, it's the first preseason. I mean, I would love to get super hyped on the guy, but, you know, we're playing second string, third string offense. Our defense is on the other side of the ball too. So there is that you got to take with it. I'll be curious to see what he does next week, man. I think he's got some serious potential. I mean, he looked, like you said, he looked angry when he ran. He ran really well, and that's one of those positions when you see it, you're like, all right, that's no joke. And we have another running back that might be a little worried about his position. I mean, we kept him on for so long. We're not too big fans of him. We call him the snail, but he's looking like he might be RB4 right now. And Carson Steele might have just jumped up there and be fighting for that spot, that third spot.
Yeah, we put out there on the Chiefs Kingdom Live X account. If you're not following us there, and if you're on X, go give us a follow. You can follow us on Instagram, Facebook at Chiefs Kingdom Live as well. Pretty easy to find. I put out there, it's like Pacheco, Prince, Steele. Who says no? Of course,
Didn't get too much pushback on that one.
Of course, you had the obligatory. There's always going to be a couple people that are coming in there like Andy Reid says no, or I say no, but overall was pretty popular. Carson Steele, Nick, what did you see out of him maybe that you liked and maybe caught your attention, piqued your interest?
Look, the Chiefs, it's no knock on Pacheco, but the Chiefs have struggled in short yardage situations, right, for the past few years. 3rd and 1, at the goal line from the 1, there's just always kind of been a lack there. And what I saw was somebody that could actually truck past somebody and get a yard, right, if they need to. Now, with Bo, I'm with Bo. I always like when I'm watching preseason games, I have to be like, all right, I'm not gonna do this to myself, or I fall in love with this player that is playing against 2s and 3s, but I always end up kind of doing it. So I don't know. It doesn't work.
Gotta keep our composure, Nick.
Our
composure.
And I'm still carrying a torch for Justin Ross, right? So look, it's good. We need that type of back, right? I think every team needs that type of back, but really just I think that's what I would be excited to see is if he gets in there with the ones in that type of situation, can that guy just push ahead and get that first down? And because it's hurt the Chiefs so many times over the last 3 or 4 years, those short situations where they have to resort to gimmicks or they have to try to do something different, right? In overtime in the Super Bowl, we had 3rd and 1 and didn't get it, and now we're, at match point, 4th and 1. Luckily, Mahomes, was able to do, slide keys and get out there on that play and get the first down. But it would have been a lot easier if we had just pounded the ball, on 3rd down and got a first. So.
Yeah, I liked what I saw to Carson Steele. Had some power. He was, regardless of whether he's playing backups, he's still out there and running big dudes over. And he's like a gym hero, right? You hear about the crazy poundage the dude can squat, and the guy can throw the weights around with the biggest of them there in the weight room. Yeah, and it wasn't just like the touchdown. There was a couple other points in the game where they gave the ball to him on the short yardage thing, and he plowed up the middle and got 2 or 3 yards. And that has been sorely missing in the Chiefs offense here the last handful of years. I think Kevin pointed out earlier that CEH got his 3 carries for 0 yards in the game. Carson Steele, look, he's got the underdog factor. And so people are definitely going to root for him. He's got the cool, I don't know what you call it, comic book name, Carson Steele, right? The dude sounds like something you'd read out of like a Marvel comic book or like a movie hero or whatever, action hero. But he's got a pet alligator, which is pretty cool too.
Yeah, that's random.
Going around.
It's like a guy you'd see riding a mechanical bull in a bar in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Just
yeah. So I would love for the kid to catch on. Look, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Like Carson Steele, Nick? That's weird.
Yeah.
Oh, Oklahoma, not Kansas City. Sorry.
Yeah, you did not look like Carson Steele riding the bull, Bo. But look, I'm rooting for the guy, an undrafted guy, Nick's guy, Jody Fortson kind of comes to mind, a dude that came in undrafted and earned a spot on the team and flashed and made some plays in training camp and was able to get a spot. And unfortunately, kind of like the Kadarius Toney thing we were talking about with him, the injuries kept that guy from really kind of taking off. But so he's got the underdog factor. He's got the cool name factor. You can tell by the way his teammates talk about him and the coaches. They like the guy. He's a likable guy. So, look, Clyde Edwards-Helaire to me is just a guy that you know what you got. The verdict is in.
Right.
On
yeah.
CEH.
He's had so many years. Right?
An average at best running back. At best. And he might make a flash play here or there. The guy's a good teammate. I will give him that after basically getting benched in that one Super Bowl and then coming back and taking a backup role to Isaiah Pacheco and doing what the team asked him to and being the guy's positive when you see him on the sideline and when you've seen him. It's not an easy thing. Like, those are competitive guys. You don't want to see anybody taking your job, right? But he he praised Isaiah Pacheco and was somebody who was proud of him. He was happy for him. And you didn't see him sulking over there being, like a negative Nancy and bringing bad energy to the team. So I'm going to give the guy his kudos where they're deserved. But when it comes to production on the field,
it's not there.
It hasn't been there, man. And I mean, after year 4 or 5, is that going to be the year that the guy takes off? So I'd like to see some fresh blood. Of course, it's one game, right? And so we're going to get another opportunity.
We play the Lions, and like regardless of playing second or third string, they have a significantly better defense than the Jags. So it'll be interesting to see how he does against that D.
Right. He's earned himself some more reps with the 1s and 2s and practices here this last week since the game Saturday. Punched in a touchdown too. Cool to see a guy, even if it's a preseason game, to score a touchdown. His family was there. They were excited. They were cheering him on. So I'm in his corner. I'm rooting for the guy to continue to play well and earn a spot on the team and help contribute.
Yeah, I think we all are. 3 for 3.
Another guy that I told myself I wasn't going to allow myself to do this, but I'm doing it. Justin Ross season, baby. Let's go. Dude, that catch the guy he made on the sideline was like a Sports Center top 10, right?
Yeah.
Play?
Yeah, that's top tier catch right there, man.
He's making plays again in training camp. He had another nice play on a play that kind of broke down and rerouted and made a nice play and got a pretty good gain. It got called back by penalty, of course, because that's what always happens to the Chiefs. But I'm pumped about Justin Ross. I want to see him on this team. I don't want to see. I mean, I've never seen Kadarius Toney make that play or that catch. Justin Ross, Nick, are you allowing yourself to get back on the hype train and get excited about Justin Ross' season?
I mean, that was like a vintage in his prime Odell Beckham Jr. type catch. Just the ball handling as he's falling to the ground. Yeah, look, he's got to be better than some of the other guys on the roster. I just don't know why he hasn't worked his way into more games. I know he was suspended for some last year, but it's just you see the guy out there, and it's just you see the talent, and it just seems like a no-brainer that he should be on the team. And he's got a body type that we don't really have a lot of other receivers on the team that have that type, that size.
Yeah, big
ability to kind of high point, right? I mean, a shorter receiver can't make that catch because you can't throw that ball because he's too short, right? He's got to get too high up in the air. He wouldn't get his feet down. He's too covered. So you either have to throw the ball in a different location, or you just have to go somewhere else on your route tree, right? So like, I think he's got a spot on the team. Truth will come to light if he can do that in a real game situation versus preseason, because I know that he had some drops last year, but I mean this is was everybody was dropping everything for the Chiefs last year, so it must have been some bad batch of gloves that they got from China, or I don't know, but I'm fully back in on Justin Ross after that one catch, man. It's it's like I said, man. I say I'm not going to do it, but I always do it. Let's go.
Bo, Justin Ross, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm trying to refrain from getting fully in, but you guys are making really compelling arguments here, man. I'm getting right there with you. Let's go. I mean, I still have his jersey. I'm ready for it. I want him to be on the team too. The thing I'm really enjoying about that catch was one that he made it, didn't drop as Nick pointed out, but then he continued it this week in training camp. He's still the talk of training camp, making the same catches and working that hard. So I'm with Nick. I want to see it translate into a game. I'm super excited to see next week all these players, if they can, continue their rise here. And we were talking about that would be a perfect guy to step up in the absence of Brown going down. For everything that Nick said, we kind of gone short and fast. That's kind of like the MO for our top receivers right now. So he'd be a great addition just to mix things up. Like Nick said, put the ball in different positions for the receivers, make it harder for the defense to guess where it's going to go. I would love to see him on this team, but again, just got to wait till next week, see if he can continue his success there.
No, I do want to respond to this comment here. I'm not saying he's going to be as good as Odell Beckham Jr., but I'm just saying the ball handling skills on the sideline going down to the ground, he's like moving the ball around between his hands as he's falling down and toe tapping. And I just think that that's you don't see a lot of guys with that level of skill in that situation in the NFL. I think it's pretty rare to see that, right? You don't see more than probably in the regular season, a dozen to 15 catches of that caliber, I think, in a game.
Yeah, the body control, the ability to get up and high the ball. It was underthrown, so he had to jump. He had to basically kind of jump and turn in the air and secure the ball.
Yeah,
high point it, and then get the toes down on the sideline. I've never seen Sky Moore or Kadarius Toney.
You got Rost. I like it.
Yeah, Rost. That's been going around. Yeah, people saying you got Rost. What a weapon could be like in the red zone, right?
Right.
Give some defenses to think about when you get down at the goal line, especially if you can if Chiefs can improve their short yardage game with Steele or one of these guys and get in there and also have a threat to throw maybe the ball up in addition to Travis Kelce there inside the red zone at the goal line. I'm not calling for Justin Ross to have 1,200 yards and 8 touchdowns or something like that, but I think the guy can contribute. And to me, it's just time to see what he gives you. Again, we've talked about Kadarius Toney and we've talked about Sky Moore. He's a little different player than Sky Moore, right? Sky Moore is kind of more like a shorter, maybe like a slot receiver or something. But
a wiry guy.
Justin Ross is like he's the prototype for a true wide out, right? Big, fast guy. So was really glad to see him kind of build on the momentum and kind of like eye-opening plays he's been making in training camp to then do it in a game is a good sign. Like you said, with Hollywood Brown, if he's missing 2 or 3 games to start the season, the Chiefs are going to be all hands on deck at the wide receiver position. Because outside of Rashee Rice and maybe that guy Justin Watson, obviously Travis Kelce is going to be there. So at the tight end is the threat at receiver, but they could use it in one of these first 2 games if Brown can't come back. So I'm pumped. I'm ready. Let's give this dude a chance and see what he can do.
Right.
I just feel
do the Chiefs move on from Sky Moore? I see Chief Bloodgrass. He's obviously not high on Moore, as I don't think any of us are. But do the Chiefs bite the bullet here and move on, cut their losses?
CEH has taught us anything? No, they'll hang on to him. They'll try to develop him. Unless somebody's offering him like a screeching deal or some crazy draft pick, like 1 or 2 for him, maybe. But I can see him holding on to him.
Yeah, look, some people online have been clamoring, and we kind of talked about this a couple weeks ago when we did our CKL poll about like who would you like to see get that last roster spot. I think we had Ross, and we had Remigio, and we had Tony. I'm ready to swap Ross and Remigio out for Tony and Moore. And just see what you got. But the Chiefs, they just have not shown that they are really willing to move on from guys that they pick early in the draft, right? Those first, second round guys. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, perfect example. Guy they picked in the first round, been around 4 years. Decent player, but you like to think they could have improved, especially when you bring a guy. You go out and you get Isaiah Pacheco in the 7th round, and he takes the dude's
he just
job.
crushes it. We've done that with so many like 7th, 8th round picks, right? Just like studs.
Yeah,
Pacheco.
Yeah, I mean, you brought Pacheco in the 7th round, and he outplayed him and took the guy's job. So, I want to see it at the wide receiver position. I want to see Justin Ross and want to see him get his opportunity.
Would be nice. Who else stood out to you in this game? It's preseason, but like any other players like?
And we talked about the defense kind of struggling, but Hicks on the defense, the safety, the rookie, he's been turning heads in training camp, and some people have been talking about him. I know Nate Taylor is kind of a fan of him. And
saw him make some good tackles. That's all I really did see him do in the game, though.
He made some plays on special teams where he ran down and made a good tackle, and then made some good plays. So it looked like the Chiefs, I think they picked him up in the 4th or 5th round. So the secondary, like we talked about with the departure of L'Jarius Sneed, I know he's a corner, not a safety, but They could use some reinforcements there on the defense and try to keep that form that they had last year, where they were the defense. I mean, we've talked about them. They were top 2 in points and yards allowed last year. An elite level defense. So yeah, I mean, he kind of popped and flashed to me and was making some plays.
Okay.
I mean, Bo, anybody else kind of catch your eye?
You know, it wasn't like flashy or anything, but I want to see LRZ get some more opportunities, man. It's like one of those things, you can see his athletic ability. He's just playing a completely new sport and trying to get a feel for it, and in front of a huge crowd. I mean, no, it's not Arrowhead, but it's still a big crowd, and I could imagine nerves took a big part of his performance, and I could actually see that guy doing really well, especially with that new kickoff that we haven't yet to talk about. Which
we'll talk about that here pretty soon.
Upon further review, I've changed my mind about that, but no, I'd really like to see him get another shot. I really think he has a lot of potential. Just one of those players, like, you can just see his athletic ability, and he's just big and cut, and I'd like to see him. We kind of already talked about everybody else. What did you think about
Areza, the new punter?
I mean, not bad, right? Bombing. He had some bombs.
Yeah. Well, yeah, half of
Bucker were like
he was getting great hang time, teams. Right? His punts weren't very long, but half of them were inside the 20, and he was getting great hang time. Where, I mean, if you can prevent punt returns, and get it inside the 20, half or more of the time, it's worth moving on from Tommy Townsend, right?
Yeah, it's one of those positions I think you can't afford to move on to for if you get a young buck like that with a leg.
They've said he's been regularly kicking the ball, like punting 70 yards in camp.
Yeah, that's what I've heard too.
Just got like a magic leg, golden leg, I guess. But
yeah, I mean, a lot of it's got to translate to the game, right? Like, I can't help but feel that's why CEH gets as long of a shot as he does, and some of these guys who we kind of obviously see aren't performing well. I just have to feel that, like, in practice and training camps, they're doing something that we don't get to see, where the coach is like, yeah, man, if that translates to a game, that's our guy, right? And we just don't get to see that. We only get to see once a week kind of performances.
Yeah, you see him in the game, but you don't see that, in meetings they're having a hard time recalling what the plays are, or that, they're missing assignments and stuff. So there's a lot more to it, and that's why they make the money that they make. But sometimes you see talent and you're just like, I mean, there's just, the talent is undeniable, right? And you just, it's a head scratcher, but I'll defer to, the coaches that won back-to-back rules, I guess, over, some guy on the internet that, but yeah, as far as LRZ, right? Like, man, it was a rough outing for him. I saw on X, he posted, hey, got my, check. I got my first ever, real football game that I played under my belt. So you hope that, he can develop. He's probably looking more like somebody they'll sign to the practice squad at this point, wouldn't you think? And maybe give him some more time to develop. Or
yeah, I see. I mean, unless he can beat out like a Carson Steele or something, or CEH, I mean, I just don't see that happening. I mean, right now he's got to be what, like 5th string running back? I mean,
yeah,
behind Pacheco and Prince, who's maybe the 2, and maybe not that guy. He didn't necessarily flash or blow up or really catch my eye a whole lot. But I mean, you got to figure Pacheco's the number 1 clearly, and then you've got Prince and Steele and CEH all have to be ahead of him. I don't know. He didn't stand out to me. I'm not trying to dog the guy. I'm not trying to diss the guy. Patrick Mahomes has said some nice things about him.
Like I said, I didn't think he was like flashy by any means. I just like to see him get more reps, get more comfortable out there.
Yeah, I think it's a long road for him to make the team, but yeah, definitely be good to give him some more opportunities and get out there and get his feet wet.
I was like reading that comment, like, meh is dead to
dude, MEH, meh. That's so good. I've never heard that, but yeah.
I've never
so I think Keith Bloody Grass here is talking about Matt Areza, Scott. I don't know if while you were on, we were talking about him. Like, I know he had, like, for the Bills in their preseason last year or whatever, he had like an 82-yard touchback, which is insane. But what did you think about his punts?
I mean, he had a couple, like a 40-yard punt, which really maybe is not all that impressive. I don't know. The guy's been out of football for a little while now too, right?
Yeah.
So maybe it's just going to take some just getting back out there and doing it. So look, I mean, the guy had nicknamed Punt God in college, and it's not like he's been out of football for years. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the punter. We had Tommy Townsend. We kind of
Cheap player, I was nervous.
Yeah, he could have been getting back out there for the first time in that long, and maybe the excitement, the nerves got to him a little bit. But was that the guy that you said Nick was kind of saying that to you? I had to run upstairs for.
No, we were just Look, we kind of gone through the gamut there. I was just seeing what I mean. Look, he didn't have like super long punts, but man, he had a couple of really great hang times inside the 20. So you had a guy catching when you can hang the ball and a guy has no chance at a return and he catches it at the 10. Dude, I'm down for that every time, right? I mean, punt returns for touchdowns, it's just such a dangerous play. So if you can just take out any possibility of a return and then they're not getting the ball at the at the 20 or 25 yard line or whatever, I'm down for it. So,
right. Well, let's hopefully we don't see him punting the ball a lot this year.
Yeah,
right. So right. Scoring a lot of points.
The guy you hope you never see on the field, right? The punter.
Right. Yeah. We kind of been blessed with good punters too, and this organization.
Right. Yeah.
Like Cole quit, and then we moved on to Townsend, who was definitely, I mean, one of the better punters in the league. He's moved on now. He's on the Jaguars, right? That was kind of like,
yeah, that's right. An
old friend showing up there. So
one of my better Super Bowl memories was actually Tommy Townsend kicking it over all the halftime show stages as they're wheeling him off, and he's like yelling at him, "Get out of the way!"
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, there you go. Very good.
Random thought.
Good to see our man Chris Daly checking in. Appreciate you swinging by. Hope you're doing good, Big Chris. Looks like we got Jaylon. We got Janet showing up in here. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, guys.
It's kind of come up in the chat here, and we've kind of hopped and danced around it here, but the new kickoff. I've watched a handful of preseason games. I want to see. We want to know what everybody in the chat has to think about the new kickoff. It was this week's CKL poll. Whether or not you're a fan of the new kickoff. Look, the Chiefs got burned on it and gave up a big return. Definitely soured me maybe a little bit on my opinion of the kickoff, but I was not a fan of it when I heard about it in the offseason. Right. I was less of a fan of it when I saw it in action in the first preseason game, the Hall of Fame game that I watched. It's not growing on me. I'll say that. If you're following us on X, you can still go vote in the poll. It's up here. Let's just go around the horn here. I'd like to see what you guys' opinions on it. You like it, don't like it, maybe reasons why. Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I don't like it. We've talked about it a little bit when it first got approved or whatever. I just think it's too complicated and it seems too gimmicky for the premier football league to me. I mean, I've refrained from being snarky on X, but it's like, what if they added some like little circles that move around the field and we could call them bonus zones, and if you catch the ball in the bonus zone, then they got to cut to 3 Mississippi before they could tackle. Like, it's a dumb setup. Like, I know what they're trying to do, but like, if you want more returns, just go back to the old rules, Like, I know that they're trying to say that it's, to protect player safety and all that. But I mean, there's plenty of evidence that they don't really care that much about player safety, right? Like they're pushing for an 18-game season.
Right.
Like there's only one bye week. I mean, I don't think that's a concern. I don't know why they're doing it. Like why they kept messing with the rule, but now they've messed with it so much that, it's like when you keep you guys ever make soup and you keep trying to add stuff to it and all of a sudden you screw it up. And the only thing that you can do is really just kind of throw it out. Like, that's how I feel with the rule. They just got to throw it out, start all over, and just go back to the old format. Like they're having too many touchbacks, move the kicker back and then the ball will be there. Like, move the guys a little bit forward, but allow them to have a running start. I just don't like it at all, man. I just really don't.
Janet, she put a comment here. She's kind of want to know the mechanics of it. So basically, it's where if the kicking team kicks the ball into the end zone and the receiving team calls a touchback, they get the ball at the 30-yard line. So they're trying to get teams to not kick it into or out of the end zone. They are encouraging more returns, which is the point of the rule change. So then you have the landing zone. And so that's from the 20-yard line to the goal line. If the receiving team calls a fair catch on a ball that lands inside the landing zone, then they get the touchback, and it's only at the 20-yard line, which is a penalty. So they've lined up the kicking team's players down closer to where the ball lands and is received by the kicking team to slow down the gunners and the guys running downfield so that you don't have as harsh a collisions between blockers and would-be tacklers and the returner. I think that basically sums it up. I don't know if maybe I'm missing something there. Nick,
There's
like
some,
Nick said, it's kind of
rules
confusing
if it gets kicked out of bounds and stuff now, but
yeah. So it's strange to say the least. Bo, sounds like maybe you're souring on it. You were a little higher on it earlier.
It's like that behind the back pass. I was trying to will myself to like it. I am liking the behind the back pass now way more than I'm liking this kickoff. For everything that Nick brought up, that player safety thing is like, yeah, this doesn't seem to be it, because when you have those two guys running, that guy with the ball still gets hit just as hard, man. We saw, I mean, not in our game, but a bunch of the other games, I saw a bunch of wild hits. But to like the point of our game and the special teams, we just blew it, and like I think that was just a factor of us not knowing the rules and guys just not really understanding what's going on. I can't tell you how many times I watched a game this weekend and I was like, I had it on mute and I'd look over at it and I thought there was a penalty on the play. It's like, oh, everybody stopped running, and like guy catches it and they all start running. I was like, oh yeah, that's the new format. It's just like, as Nick was pointing out, there's so many specialty caveats to the rules now that it's just like, we can't be doing this to NFL refs. They have a hard enough time being objective when it comes to like pass interference, like now we're going to make them have to like keep track of 6 different things that could go wrong on a kickoff. There's we obviously tested the rules right away with Mecole Hardman, right? Apparently there wasn't a rule for that situation. Yeah, if you're in the end zone, reach across, grab the ball.
Right. Well, if the ball lands in the end zone and then comes back into the field of play, they didn't really account for that.
Right. Yeah. The refs didn't even know. Right. They called it a touchback initially. And
safety.
Like, yeah, okay, it makes sense. And then safety. So yeah. I mean, it's just why break something that isn't broken, or why fix something that isn't broken? It was. Right. I get what they were trying to do. I just don't think they're going to have much success with it this way.
Right. There also wasn't a lot of data that really backed up that the old style kickoffs really had all that much more injuries or head injuries and concussions like they were claiming when they changed the rule to try to, they wanted to get away from kickoffs, and people complained about it. So they're trying to bring it back now. It's like new Coke. Like if you want it, just go back to the original, just go back to it. If you want kick returns, go back to the old one. If you don't, then go back to them kicking it out of the end zone. Look, most of the kicks I've seen in these kickoffs in these preseason games, the dude's like getting tackled immediately, and he's basically at the 25-yard line, which was the old touchback spot from kicking it out of the end zone or fair catching it in the end zone. So I don't know. The landing zone thing is weird. Kickers are having to like retrain their brain to try to kick it to where it lands. I understand the professional kickers, and you should do that every time. So,
yeah, probably. And the most egregious thing is that you can't do an onside kick, right? Unless it's the fourth quarter and you're behind or something. And then also you have to declare that you're going to do an onside kick beforehand. So there's no, surprise onside kicks. And I know that, famously happened in the Saints-Colts Super Bowl at halftime, right? Where they came out with a surprise onside kick. The Jaguars did it to the Chiefs a couple years ago. Those are always kind of exciting. When it happens, obviously it wasn't exciting when it happened to us to start the game. And, we lost our opening possession, but look, I'm not going to, say a rule sucks just because, we've been on the the bad end of it a couple of times. I don't know. And maybe Chief Bloody Grass is right. Maybe in a few years we'll be used to it and it'll be better. I mean, definitely like what they had, like kicking, like, there's no kick returns on kickoffs in the Super Bowl, right? I mean, so maybe they just get rid of the play altogether, I guess. I don't know. I just don't like complicated rules. I think it's gimmicky, and I think it's hard to, it's hard to bring in new fans, right? Like, you're trying to explain football to people and that don't know the game. Like, I have young kids, right? And it's like you're trying to explain it, and now you're like, okay, so if they kick the ball here, then like it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan.
Right.
I'll continue to be a grumpy old man about it.
The one advantage I will say for the Chiefs with having Harrison Butker and the mass, like the huge leg that guy's got, that can kick 57, 58, 60-yard field goals right with regularity.
Mm-hmm.
When the other team, when it does go into the end zone, and you saw the Chiefs, they got a touchback and started at the 30-yard line. You're talking about getting 20 yards and you're in field goal range.
Right. Yeah.
So, I mean, and that's assuming so that's what, 2 first downs? That's assuming you get 10 yards exactly on each first down.
No, yeah, I understand.
You could be looking at getting 1 first down and being in field goal range, which is a definite advantage.
One big play like Pacheco had that 20-yard run, right? Bam, all of a sudden you're in field goal range.
You're in field goal range. So that is somewhere where I feel like it could be more advantageous for the Chiefs than maybe some of their opponents. You got to think, though, teams are going to be shying away from kicking it into the end zone. Although I don't know how hard it is for an NFL kicker to kick the ball and have it land inside between the 20 and the goal line. I don't know how hard that is to do. I mean, I'm guessing those guys are good enough at that level to where it can be almost automatic to where you're not kicking in the end zone. But I've seen guys kick it into the end zone. And, kickers and teams are trying to get greedy because ideally, like, the perfect thing to do is land the ball inside, like, the 5 or the 10-yard line, right?
And hope it bounces back or up.
Hope it bounces, or hope that the guy catches it.
Yeah, or catches
bobbles
it,
or then has to try to return. Now you're talking about the guy's got to return it 20 yards, right? And you should be pinning people down inside the 10-yard line to start drives, almost like pinning a punt down in between the teams. So teams are going to get greedy, and when you're trying to get greedy and you're trying to pin it inside that 10 or around the 10 or the 5-yard line, you're bound to get a little overzealous, or the wind carries it right into the end zone. So that is one part where I feel like it could maybe be better for the Chiefs. But as you saw by the poll results, it is not popular. And I know our man Bloody Grass played pro football, and he's taken the punishment of playing the physical game, but I don't see myself being a fan of it in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. I just don't. To me, it's like arena football shit. That's, I don't know. It's like sideshow. Like I don't know. It's just, I'm also a purist too. Like, go back to the old kickoff, man. People are gonna get hurt. It's football. It's gonna happen. Everybody knows.
Yeah, look, I think if you want to change something, drastically, doing small incremental changes over time, people are more accepting. But this is like one of the first like pretty drastic changes to the game. I don't even know what the closest comp is, right? I mean, for that, like
instant replay, maybe, right? Like
maybe, yeah, instant replay
to the game.
Yeah, they had it, and then they took it away, and then they brought it back with the challenge system. Right. But I think that's part of it, right? Is that it's weird to take a game that you've watched your entire life, and then they're like, okay, so remember how they used to do this? We're not doing any of that anymore, Right. And I agree, soon they'll probably have like some sort of, they've talked about this 4th and 15 onside kick thing, right? Which, I mean, if it's Chiefs, like, if you can take the ball out of the kicker's, realm and put it into the hands of Patrick Mahomes, that bodes well for the Chiefs, right? I mean, for onside, right. Or, trying to recover after a kick, but I don't know. I just don't like it. I mean, I just really think it's too complicated.
Right. Yeah. I don't really remember them making a change that was that dramatic and that much more complicated. I mean, maybe when they went to the 2-point conversion, but that's not complicated. Like, you get the ball to the 2-yard line, and if you get in the end zone, it's 2 points. It's not like, well, if you throw the ball into this part of the end zone,
then that, if this, then
throw it
that,
into this part of the
if
end
this,
zone,
like an Excel
run it in at
spreadsheet with all these
3,
if-then
yeah.
statements.
Yeah, and two, this is a petty grievance on my part, but I hate it when you're watching the game and they got all the funky looking graphic shit on the field, like the landing zones highlighted in green and the end zones this thing. I don't know, man. That looks stupid to me. So
Pretty soon that landing zone is going to be a company logo. Here's the safe zone, brought to you by Tampax.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Delta.
Bonus zone. Make it a thing.
Right. The Delta landing zone, or
the Boeing zone's in the back.
Right.
Like not really in the end zone, kind of halfway out.
Yeah, if you catch it in the Boeing zone, you get stuck on the International Space Station until the end of the game.
Yeah. John C.
Till next season.
was on some
Those guys are still in space.
That's a space joke for anybody that's been paying attention to that. Those guys are stuck up there.
Yeah, no, that's crazy. Look, I don't know. I mean, do we think it survives after this year, the new kickoff?
It's hard to say. That first week seemed sloppy to me. It didn't seem like a lot of people were in favor of it. The players seemed lost. We've already backed up against the rules, found gray areas within the rules, and they're already having to address points that they didn't already have addressed.
Could you
it just doesn't seem like. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. You finish up.
It just doesn't seem like it was a completely thought out rule change or new play introduction, right? I mean, there's definitely some kinks that would need to get worked out if it's gonna stay. But in my opinion, I think it's gonna be like the pass interference where you could replay that, right? They introduced that and they tried it preseason. Like, yeah, this isn't gonna work, and they took it out before the season. I can kind of see that happening with this play. Hopefully, I think.
Yeah, Chief Bloody Grass is bringing up the forward pass. That was a little bit before my time. So, yeah, that was a pretty big change to the thing.
That's what separated it from rugby, right? That was like rugby. You can't throw the ball forward, sort of knock on or whatever.
Right. It's kind of go ahead, Nick.
I mean, it's an entertainment product, but if you're changing the product and the fans don't like it and they're not entertained, like I mean, it works both ways. I get they're trying to make the plays less ceremonial, right? Because I mean, the kickoff became like ceremonial, where it's like we just do it, like, but nothing really happens. And I mean, it's kind of like the in MLB when they took the walkout, right? Like where you could just like walk somebody and put them on base. Like you ceremonial to throw the 4 pitches out, and every once in a while, once somebody drop one, and you could run or something. But so I get that they're trying to make it valid. So I mean, it's like you get an A for effort, but like a D for execution, right? That's
yeah, sure.
That's my only point.
Yeah, what's coming to mind as I'm sitting here thinking about it, we're talking about it, like the catch rule is like the closest comparison I can think of, like made it super crazy, like confusing with all these different things that have to happen, right? It's like, oh, well, you have to have 2 feet inbounds and you have to have control of the ball and you have to make a football move. Unless you're on the sideline, then all you have to have is 2 toes in, then you have to survive to the ground. Like, the ball's in your hands, you get 2 feet down, it's a catch, right? We don't need to overcomplicate this. That to me is kind of like the biggest gripe I have with the kickoff is just they need to
unless Nick Bolton hits you and you drop the ball and he picks it up and runs it to the end zone in the Super Bowl, and that's not a catch.
Right. Well, turning to go upfield is not a football move, but
turning and
tucking the ball is, but not tucking the ball and turning to run upfield. Yeah, I don't know. Again, it's just.
So look, we haven't even seen a real one in a real game. So I guess we could check back in here in a few weeks into the season and see how it's playing out. I mean, maybe there's some exciting returns. Maybe it's there's some field position swings there that make the game more interesting. But
can you imagine
right now That's a no for me, Doug.
They better get all of the loopholes in the gray areas ironed out. Could you imagine if that was like a regular season game with like playoff seeding on the line or a playoff game, and they give a team a fucking safety and give them 2 points when they're not supposed to?
Initially call it a touchback and then go back and call it a safety.
Yeah.
What do you guys think of the new? I know I didn't see it in the Chiefs game, but I saw it in another game. The new like yardage technology, right? They got the sensors in the football.
Yeah, so that's like what I just brought up, the chain gang going away, right? Using the, what do they call that, like Hawkeye or something?
Yeah, I saw one use of it. Man, I can't remember which game it was, but they just showed the 3D rendering, and they're like, "That's it." They didn't even like show the ball or a replay, and then I was just like,
it took like 3 minutes for them to do it.
There's a lot of trust in that graphic right there. Who drew that? It doesn't even look like a real ball.
Right. I mean, I'm all for technological advances to make the game better, and if they can spot the ball more accurately, I'm all for it. But it's not like they're talking about, well, we're going to use the chain gain between the 30 and the 30, and then once it gets inside the 30, then we're going to go to this technology. Unless it's at the goal line, then we're going to use this. I mean, you're adding too many layers and too many variables to it to create confusion for my liking. But hey, they don't consult me, and it's. I bet it doesn't make it. I bet it's good this year, and then you see another change.
I mean, the chain gang stuff going away. Like, I'm 100% on board with that. Like, I mean, if you've got technology that can tell you, within whatever percent of accuracy that they got a first down versus they didn't get a first down, I mean, I don't see what we're even talking about here versus some, 6-year-old dudes running out there with a stick and some chains and trying to, figure out whether they got the first down. So, I mean, I'm all about technology improving the game and getting human, error, right, from referees, like out as much as possible. In Major League Baseball, like, I think they should have a digital strike zone that you can see it on TV, and like, I mean, so I'm all about that. Now I think that's just when they spot the ball. Doesn't it like tell you if it's a first down or not though? It doesn't like actually like figure out where the ball should have been, so that they're still physically spotting the ball after the play's over. And then it's like, is it a first down? And they say, hey, I don't think it was a first. I think it's a first
referenced
down.
With a timestamp, right? So there's like essentially like a GPS or RFID chip on it. And then they timestamp it. And so like you're still kind of using the human eye to guess where it would be at that moment. And then you use the location at that timestamp.
So they would like they would pause it and say his knee's down at this timestamp, and then they like go to where the ball was.
What's the reading out on the chip at that time?
Yeah, dude. Right? To be honest, that to me that's perfect. So I'm fine with that. They just need to make it as fast as possible.
100%. They need to expedite that process. They need to. What I guess my biggest gripe is they didn't really use it in congruence with like real footage or like showing you there was like a human element in there, showing like, hey, yeah, we're going
line with the football.
It's just like a PowerPoint that I put together with a line and a football. Just like, we're gonna go. Like, I've seen that in soccer too, because they've been doing it with soccer with offsides and VAR, where they just do a 3D rendering of the play and they show like the dude's elbow across the line. And you're like, I want to see that real picture, please. And they're like, nope, right, here we go. But I'm all for it because I think that's going to be way more accurate.
I guess
this is an image I made in Microsoft Paint.
I guess the thing I don't understand about the technology of the new whatever spotting the ball is like, where's the chip at in the ball? Like, is it in one nose of the ball? Because if you're carrying the ball here and the chip is here, as opposed to like in this nose of the ball, like you could be off by.
From my understanding, there's multiple. I think there's like 10, like 5 on each side. RFID chips are so small. I think a lot of companies now put them in like the like tags on your shirt and stuff. They can put RFID tags and stuff in there, and like they're tiny.
Yeah. I was kind of wondering how they would do that. Like, I mean, if you put it in this part of the ball, like, you're spotting there. Well, that ain't gonna be where the nose of the ball's at. Or if you put it in one nose of the ball, maybe there's one in each nose.
Grabbing a football,
maybe
right?
one
Like pretty much like
right
there on each side.
Yeah,
right. Like in a circle all the way around
Makes
on
sense.
both sides.
Makes sense. I don't. Other NFL news you guys want to talk about real quick? I think Nick wanted to bring up something about.
Oh yeah. So I was perusing some media today. Did you guys see Dolphins head coach What's his name? Mike McDaniel was on.
Yep.
Was on Pat McAfee show talking about yeah. So I want to. So what I did is I put this video together, him talking about having to go to Kansas City to play in the cold. Hack ball.
Yeah. Someone's gonna hack the ball and cheat. That's a good one.
It's a good thing Tom Brady's retired, or he'd figure that shit out, right? He'd be like,
Belichick
"We
doesn't
found
know
out
his
that
job
the
either."
ball was actually, hacked to be 3 inches forward."
That's funny. Sorry.
Anyway, so I put this together. I want you guys to watch this, and then I want your thoughts on this and see if you think the same thing that I thought when you watch this clip. So this is it's probably like a minute or something, but all right.
I haven't seen this. I'm ready.
You don't like your season to be left up to the outcome of a game in that climate. Don't have the game be in that climate.
That's awesome. I like that. That's the motivating factor.
I think that's kind of where guys are at. Is all right, because nobody feels sorry for you. We made our own bed. That it wasn't that cold in Miami.
So, and you know how we are. I mean, we don't really care. They could give us a Tuesday game if they want. We'll be okay there too. So we work through it, and we'll play anybody, anywhere, whatever they want to do. We're on board. So I just say get ready for the game. Let's do that. I don't really care what goes on out here. We're not having a snowball fight.
I mean, it was cold. I'm not going to lie. It was cold, but I think at the end of the day, you got to just be mentally tough enough to just say that it's not going to affect how we play. That's not going to affect my effort. If something doesn't work, I'm going to come back the next time and keep firing.
That's all. I honestly throw me in a CVS parking lot and do a radio call. I don't even got to be on the tube, man. It's playoff football.
All right. So I don't know how much of the audio went through, if it froze up for you guys or not, but
I don't know.
Scotty,
a couple times briefly for me, but I heard most of it. Yeah, look, I mean, I get what Mike McDaniel's saying. Really, it's more he's saying, like, we need to not put ourselves in that position, right? We need to win games and beat teams with a winning record next year so that we get to play at home, get that home field advantage. But look, man, like both teams had to play in the cold, and the Dolphins. I mean, yeah, it was warmer in Miami, but you know what? Like, if it makes it easier for you to play in Miami, it makes it easier for the Chiefs to play in Miami too, right? Like Patrick Mahomes wouldn't have played better. So I understand the sentiment and where he's coming from as far as not wanting to leave it up to that and control it themselves and get that home field advantage. But at the same time, it's sounding a little bit like he's blaming the weather for the outcome of the game. And the weather was not the difference in the game. That plain and simple, period. And it just goes to show you a different mindset, right? Like Andy Reid and Travis Kelce, and like, we don't care, man. We're getting ready to play anywhere, anytime, any weather, any opponent. It don't matter. Bring it on. And this dude, he must have been on break, his second job at the vape shop to do the Pat McAfee interview. But kind of silly thing to say. Again, I got where he was going with it, but yeah, kind of dumb. Bo?
Yeah, I mean, I'm with you. I understand what he was saying because, yeah, they lost to the Bills in the last game of the season, and they should have been playing in Miami and not Kansas City, right? So, I mean, I get the sentiment as a coach, like, hey, yeah, you got to not put yourself in that position. But I completely agree. I mean, I was at that game. It was cold, but hey, man, there was 55 guys on both teams out there doing it too, and I don't know, the Chiefs just handled it. It does help when you're practicing in 30s, but dude, it was minus 28, minus 30 degrees that day. Like, there's no preparing for that on either side. I was in Kansas City for that month, and you just don't get used to minus 28. There's nothing to get used to. Your body just uncontrollably shivers. And so, yeah, it kind of does sound like some excuses at the end of the day. I agree with you. It would be easier to play in Miami, but it would also be easier for us to play in Miami.
Exactly.
Too, man. Like it would just, everybody would be more mobile. So it sounds like they're kind of leaning on it just a little bit, but I don't really think that was his sentiment though, but he couldn't help but bring it up, right?
Yeah, no. There's a little bit of whining to it for sure. Nick?
Yeah. Look, the reason that I brought that up was it's like he's trying to sound like he's empowering his players, but at the same time, he's also building in excuses for them and as to why it's okay to like not succeed. And like, I don't know. So I was just looking at that, and you look at the difference in, like a lot of football is about intangible things, and a big one is about leadership. And when I saw that, and I just, the first thing that popped into my head is, and I couldn't find the actual Andy Reid one where he's like, we'll line up like in the CVS parking lot. Let's go. I found a Kelsey one, but I just think that mindset, like you see it permeates the leaders on the Chiefs team, and you just got to wonder, like, were the Dolphins, like, were they going into that thinking that maybe like we don't have an edge because like we don't play in cold weather? And like, I don't know, man. I just,
100%.
It was like, I saw that and I was like, dude, I can't believe that guy's saying that publicly, because he's basically like low key blaming the weather. And what are they like? What's this team going to think if they get a home playoff game next year, but then they have to go to Baltimore and it's cold, right? Like they're just going to think, oh, well, we're going to lose. I don't know. So I threw that together. I thought it'd be a little fun to.
That has been the MO of the Dolphins as of late, even with this new team and all the weapons and stuff. They just fall off in the end, man. I mean, whether it's the cold weather or not, I mean, it's perennial that they fall off at the end of the year. So now I think they're just kind of, oh, it's because of the weather. That's why we fall. We have an all-star team, but it's the weather.
Yeah. Tyreek Hill still had a long touchdown in that game, right? I mean, it's not like you couldn't move the ball. I mean, Chiefs scored, 27 points in that game? Come on. They were able to get the ball in the end zone. The Dolphins, they had a killer running game. You want to talk about making it harder to pass. If anything, between Raheem Mostert and Devon Achane, they had a better running game than the Chiefs had last year. That should have been maybe more of an advantage to them to play in that weather than the Chiefs. If you want to make that argument, I'd certainly listen to it. So, yeah, look,
which one do you think is worse, the Dolphins blaming the weather or the Eagles blaming the field for the Super Bowl?
The Eagles, in my opinion, man.
Yeah, the Eagles. I mean, everybody was slipping around on there, right? I mean, Harrison Butker kicked the game winner off of the paint. Everybody was talking about how slippery it was.
I'm not distracted at your body trembling in a nice, air conditioned or heated stadium in February. And
right, I'm probably gonna go with a little lamer the Dolphins to blame the cold weather. I get being sour grapes over losing the Super Bowl and looking for an excuse and reason. So I almost understand that a little bit more than you lost a wild card weekend on the road because you couldn't beat.
I think the Dolphins have the longest active streak of not winning a playoff game, right? So that was their Super Bowl, right? That's same thing. Sour grapes about not winning the Super Bowl to them, right?
The other thing about the cold weather too is, I get it that the Chiefs, I mean, they are getting to practice in the cold and they've been here, but it's not like the Miami Dolphins are comprised of a bunch of people from Miami that have played warm weather their whole life, right? A lot of these
Patrick Mahomes is from Texas, right?
Right. Patrick Mahomes is from Texas. I want to say like his first snow game he ever played in was against the Chiefs or when he was with the Chiefs against maybe the Broncos or somebody. He's like, I think I'm a snow game guy, right? Wasn't that his first game playing in the snow? There's players on all these NFL teams from all over the country that have played in cold weather, hot weather, rainy weather, dry weather, humid heat. You know what I'm saying? I don't. To act like the weather is really all that much of a factor to me is pretty lame.
All of those players though have played on a painted field.
Right. Remember there was people too who were saying like George Toma, the sod father, like overwatered it on purpose to make it slippery because he's like done the Chiefs field for all that time. Remember the conspiracy theories who were running wild about that?
I forgot what you were talking about until you said the sod
conspiracy NFL Twitter is one of my favorite things, man.
Right,
Script writers.
They're like, dude, the refs just give the Chiefs all the calls. It's like they get penalized more than their opponents. Like, yeah, no, they do that to throw you off, man, because like then they can really not call something or call something in a crucial moment and they can fall back on that. I'm like, dude.
Right.
Well, then you know what that word all means.
Right. There's been a lot of debunking too about the myths that like the referees are in the Chiefs' pocket and they get all the calls. The Chiefs like lost more yards by penalty than any other team last year in the NFL. Right. There was another one too.
There was a
it
funny
goal.
post on X, like the number of yards per penalty, and it had like Jawan Taylor at the top, and then it had like all these empty spots, and then the next one was I think Justin Reed, right? And then all these empty spots, and there's the rest of the NFL with all the yardages.
Right. The other one too that's going around now is that like the NFL's not suspending Rashee Rice this year because they want to help the Chiefs get the three-peat. Doing the Chiefs a favor. Oh, you mean like when Von Miller got charged for domestic assault and they didn't suspend him until the game after they played the Chiefs? Was that last year or was that the year before last? Give me a break, man.
Last year, yeah.
I think it was last year. Yeah.
The league and the refs ain't out there helping the Chiefs. Like they're not doing them any favors. If you watch Chiefs games, you know how many. The Pfizer conspiracy. Janet's bringing up the Taylor Swift angle, like, oh, they want the Chiefs to win so that Taylor Swift will be at the Super Bowl and all these new fans. It's I mean, don't get me wrong.
We should do like a top 5 like anti-Chiefs internet conspiracies.
The NFL logo color one is one of my favorite ones.
Right,
the Super Bowl logo colors.
Yeah, the Super Bowl
logo.
Yeah, no, that's funny. I don't know. I mean, and don't get me wrong.
Some infinite amount of colors, right? Like there's 30 teams. I mean, they're going to pick a color that's going to correspond to a lot of teams.
Green and red. Oh, well, shit. That's like 20 of the 32 teams were either green and red.
Right.
Yeah. And hey, don't get me wrong. Anybody that knows me knows, I mean, I love a good conspiracy theory now, but it's when you hear these things come out about the refs help the Chiefs and you're like, man, do you even watch Chiefs games? They get freaking screwed by the referees especially at the worst time in big plays.
Watch the Chiefs games with Scott. You'll understand how they don't do that.
Yeah.
Third down in the Super Bowl in overtime when they would have been forced to punt and they call a hold. I mean, they don't call that like if they want the Chiefs to win.
Right. Yeah. No. They conveniently ignore all that. So I don't know. Is there anything else anybody in the chat wants to talk about, or anything we didn't get to? You guys want to talk about before we get out?
I want to talk about little briefly, just because I know it's your favorite play. We brought up Carson Steele and how awesome he's been doing, and how he's that guy that can secure a yard or two. If he is that guy and he does do that, how are you going to feel when we run 1st and 10 right up the middle every play with Carson Steele?
I'm not going to like it. Look, man, like short yardage, I'm good with it, but. Yeah, I don't want to see him running up the middle for 1 yard or 2 yards on 1st and 10. I mean,
if he gets to 1 or 2 yards, I think I might be okay with it. But I'm with you, man. I'm just like, great. Now they got a guy that can actually do that. We might see that more often than we'd like.
Yeah, no, for sure.
For anybody that's never watched a game with Scott, which is a lot of people on the stream, it's a special kind of joy when you're watching a game with him and we run the middle for no yardage on 1st down because you can just look over and you just can see
you just see it boil.
The blood start to boil.
Starts shaking. That vein in his head gets a little bit bigger.
Yeah, no.
Damn, 1st and 10 up the middle.
Yeah, no. It irritates me, man. Like, look, if it was up to me and I was calling the plays, we've talked about this before, I would just let Patrick Mahomes throw the ball on every play. I mean, so you have a way better chance and more good things are going to happen with Patrick Mahomes throwing the ball than Clyde Edwards-Helaire running it up the middle. I'm sorry. I just don't like it. I realize it's part of the game and sometimes you got to run to set up the pass, but man, 1st down and then you're sitting there at freaking 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 9 and you're like, Patrick Mahomes could have thrown the ball for at least 5 yards. Like now you're in 2nd and long. There's just so many. See, well, you're getting me going. Just thinking about it right now.
Your voice is the voice that I hear in my head when they run it up the middle on 1st and 10. I hear you going, God damn it.
Well, now we can't get him the Butterfingers shirts because MVS has moved on, but maybe we can get him like a I love 1st down runs shirt or something.
I'd still wear a Butterfingers. I'd still wear a Butterfingers shirt. I mean, I'd rock it. It's looking like
he's 1st and 10 up the middle of the shirt.
I mean, it's looking like he's not even going to make the Bills, so that whole point is kind of irrelevant.
Maybe they can sign him back.
How crazy is that? Patrick Mahomes goes and wins the Super Bowl with these receivers that are like cast off from like the Giants and like a guy wide receiver that can't even make it on the Bills. You know what I'm saying? Like, and the Chiefs win the Super Bowl with these guys.
Right.
Yeah, you look at, Juju, right? He's out of a job.
Yeah.
I mean,
fourth best player in the NFL. That's what you got. That's what makes up for these guys that can't even catch up on scrub teams. And Chiefs win the Super Bowl with them. So, yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the games counting. We're getting closer.
Next week at Arrowhead, right? Or this
yeah,
week?
this Saturday.
Yeah.
This Saturday, the Detroit Lions. We'll break that sucker down here next week after it's over. Anything real quick before we get out of here with that game coming up? Anything you guys are gonna be focusing on, looking for maybe after the first game? Nick,
did you sell your tickets or are you going?
I still have my tickets. I don't know that I'm gonna go. If you're not following us on social media, there might be an opportunity for some free Chiefs tickets this Saturday. I'm just saying.
Whoa. Already with the giveaways. All right.
If you're not following us on X, or if you're not following us on Facebook and Instagram, you might be missing out.
Wink, wink.
It'd be worth going just to see the new Super Bowl trophy.
Might be worth it, yeah. You go in there and see the 4 trophies. Oh, that's going to look sweet. 4 trophies.
No, that's going to look so badass.
Be badass. Yeah, I can't wait for that to get up there and check that sucker out. Some channel news. We're slowly but surely getting to this 1,000 subscriber mark. We would really, really love to get there this season. Hopefully, if we can get there like before the season starts, or maybe by like a quarter of the way through the season, we've got some cool stuff that we're gonna give away, and we're gonna be posting it out here pretty soon. So, if you know anybody, I mean, clicking that like, the show gets hundreds of views or whatever, and you get like 12 likes. Just it takes 1 second.
Right now.
Yeah, it takes 1 second to just tap that like. It really helps spread the word and really just gets more people in the show, not just for the fact that maybe we could, start making a little bit of our money back on some of the stuff that we've done on this channel, but just the chat is like one of my favorite parts of doing the show. I mean, we've got the OGs in here. We're adding people to the chat all the time. It makes the show just that much more fun to do. So the more the merrier. Anything you can do, click and like, click and subscribe, turn on those notifications, tell them some friends.
Thank you.
Text the link to 5 people you know that are Chiefs fans and say, hey, check these guys out. We would really, 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 really appreciate that. We're also trying this year, too, to do some clips of segments from the live show. So maybe if you tune in late, or I think Chief Bloodygrass had to check out earlier. He was taking the dog for a walk. Check the channel out. We're going to be posting shorter clips of the live shows for maybe some folks that miss stuff like that. Help spread the word. Those links and checking out the channel, we'd really appreciate it. Bloodygrass, good to see you. Thanks for checking in.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by, man.
Enjoy the rest of your evening. Chiefs will get preseason game number 2 in the books this Saturday against the Detroit Lions. Be interested to see how much the starters play and how much action they get.
Me too, especially after that Brown injury.
I think the Brown injury has got to maybe have spooked them a little bit. Maybe not. Maybe they don't get too worried about that.
Andy Reid's notoriously conservative when it comes to that kind of stuff,
yeah,
right?
He also likes playing guys in the preseason, though. I feel like
That's
he thinks
true.
it gets them ready and gives them an advantage over these teams that sit their starters and don't play in the preseason. So it's a fine line, but look, when you've built a dynasty and you've won back-to-back Super Bowls, it's pretty hard to argue with the decision-making thought process of the coach and the staff. So, channel notes out of the way. We really appreciate everybody for joining. Sincerely, from the bottom of our heart, we love y'all.
You guys.
We look forward to doing this every week, and if you can help spread the word, we should appreciate it. Keep an eye out for those clips we'll be posting, and until next Wednesday, let's go Chiefs!
All right, let's go.
Chiefs!
Chiefs.